Today I am going to make a dual extracted lion's mane tincture. Lion's mane, I'll put a picture up on the screen of what it looks like. It definitely has an appropriate name. It looks like the mane of a lion. Lion's mane recently has been studied for its effect on cognition. Lion's mane tinctures, at least where we live, sell for like 35 pounds per 100 milliliters. Making your own is really easy. It's not the easiest of the tinctures to make because there are 2 steps. It's a dual extracted tincture, but it's still super easy to make, and I'll take you through the process today. What dual extracted means is that usually when you're tincturing mushrooms, some of the beneficial compounds can be extracted with alcohol, but not all of them. Some are best extracted using hot water. And so when you use both alcohol and hot water to make a tincture, you're using a dual extracted process. And by doing so, you are able to access the full range of beneficial compounds. I tend to buy my mushrooms online from a trusted source. There's a great company in the UK called Merit Mushrooms, and they grow their own in a controlled environment. You can buy little packs like this. They also sell grow kits, so you can grow your own as well. What I like about them is that it's a local company, of course, but also that they sell the bigger slices of lion's mane. So it's a pretty hefty chunk of the mushroom. What you normally can find online is powdered mushrooms. So it comes in a really fine powder, and it's usually sold as, you add it to a smoothie or something. You can tincture powdered mushrooms, but I find it very difficult to cleanly strain them off. If you have a company near you that sells like full mushrooms like this, I would recommend using that instead of the powder, just to make your life a bit easier when you're finishing the tincture.
While I prefer using the slices of lion's mane to make this tincture because they're easier to strain off, powder will give you a more potent tincture because more of the mushroom is able to be exposed to the alcohol during the extraction process. So you can make a decision if you want to use powdered or slices of mushroom to make your tincture.
In total, we're going to use a cup of dried lion's mane, if you're using chunks like I am, and a cup and a half of 80 proof or above alcohol. If you're using the powder, we are going to use a 1/3 cup of the lion's mane powder and 1 cup of 80 proof or above alcohol. The first step to making this tincture is to do the alcohol extraction. And the second step is to do the hot water extraction, but that will be in 8 weeks' time once we have the alcohol extraction finished. What I'm gonna do is use a pair of scissors and cut these mushroom chunks into smaller pieces so the alcohol has more surface area to pull the beneficial compounds from. If you're using a powder, you don't need to really worry about this because it's so fine already.
The reason that we do the alcohol extraction before the hot water extraction is because in the hot water extraction, the mushrooms absorb a lot of water. And if we were to use those same mushrooms to do the alcohol extraction, there would be an excessive amount of water in the jar during that extraction, which we want to avoid. We always are trying to minimize the water content in the alcohol extraction because water can make things spoil or go rancid more quickly. And so by doing the alcohol extraction first, you just don't really have to worry about that. If you're just getting into tincture making and want to try other tinctures beyond just this one,
I've made a guide with 6 great tinctures to make in the summertime using fresh and forageable ingredients. The guide comes with step-by-step instructions and pictures and full supply list. So if that is of interest to you, I'll put a link for you to purchase it down in the description below. Now I'm going to just add the cut up lion's mane to my clean glass jar. Fill it up with alcohol. I'm looking for the lion's mane to be completely covered in alcohol and not have anything sticking out. Of course, because it's dried, it will take probably a day or so for it to begin to absorb some of the alcohol. After it's sat in alcohol for a day or two, you might need to top it up with more alcohol to make sure everything remains below the alcohol.
To be honest, I don't normally use exact measurements. That's because I am making these tinctures for our own personal use. I'm not selling them at all. Of course, if you're selling them, you would want to use a more exact measuring system where you would weigh the plant material, weigh the mushrooms. You would want to measure the alcohol out exactly. I really want you to feel like this is not an overwhelming thing to dive into. Tincture making is medicine of the people. If you have dried plant material and enough alcohol to cover that dried plant material, you can make a tincture.
I am going to put a lid on this and label it and date it and set it in a dark place to extract for about 2 months, 8 weeks. So I always use metal lids when making tinctures, and I just add a piece of parchment paper between the tincture and the metal lid because alcohol will corrode the metal. Like that. Give it a shake to keep everything covered. You just want to keep an eye, especially in the first few days, that everything is covered in alcohol so no mold starts to grow on the plant material, on the mushrooms. If you remember, try to shake the jar every few days to keep everything moving. So you'll want to leave this in a pantry, a cupboard, somewhere that's cool, dark. Room temperature is fine if it's not too humid. Keep it out of direct sunlight. After 8 weeks, you use cheesecloth, like, something like this, a clean towel or a mesh strainer. You can use a coffee filter to strain off the tincture. If you are using powdered lion's mane, definitely use a coffee filter. My first few times making this, I used cheesecloth to strain it off, and a lot of powder just goes right through the cheesecloth. Whereas coffee filter, you'll get a pretty clean strain on it. Now I want to show you the whole process of how to make this tincture. Even though I've just made this, I'm not going to strain it off, but I'll take you through the process of how to do the rest of the tincture making. After 8 weeks, you'll strain this off, and then it is time to do the hot water extraction.
You want to add the 1 cup of lion's mane that was in your alcohol tincture to the saucepan, and then add 3 cups of water over top of it.
And then simmer it until about half the water has evaporated.
Keep it on a really low simmer and use a crock pot to make this easier. The goal is to slowly heat the mushrooms as opposed to boil them.
So it has been simmering for about 30 minutes. And now I'm going to strain it off.
If you're using a crock pot to do this, you can let it go, 3 to 4 hours. My stovetop tends to simmer things. I can't get the heat low enough to just warm things. And so I tend to pull my water extractions off after about 30 minutes because the water is evaporating so quickly. But if you're using a crock pot, you can of course let yours go much longer, multiple hours. That will help even more of the benefits be extracted from the lion's mane.
That is the result of the hot water extraction. What you do is combine your hot water extraction with the strained off alcohol extraction. Because I just made this, I don't want to strain it off and combine it with the water extraction to show you. So I'll just talk through the instructions. I'm going to, let mine sit for the full 8 weeks and then go through the process of making the full tincture. I'm actually just going to freeze my water extraction until it's time for me to combine the two. I will talk through what you should do next so you know how to make the whole tincture. You will have a strained off alcohol tincture and you will have a strained off hot water extraction, and all you do is combine the two. Use a spoon to stir them together and then store them in a tincture bottle, or a glass jar works as well. I like the tincture bottles because they have the pipette, the dropper, that makes dosing easy. You can use a mason jar or whatever. In terms of dosage, I always will give the disclaimer that I'm not a trained, certified herbalist. I am self-taught. Definitely speak with a doctor or a trained herbalist to figure out exactly how much you should take. What I do is take about 2 droppers full in the morning when I want to have a more focused morning. So if I have a full work day or something, I'll take about 2 droppers full. You can take it directly under your tongue, which is what I do. I take quite a few tinctures, different ones throughout the year. I prefer to just take them directly under my tongue as opposed to diluting them in my coffee or something, because I do find I can taste it in my coffee and I prefer the taste of coffee. But you can, if you don't like the taste of tinctures, they are all alcohol-based tinctures, so you can dilute it in tea or juice or coffee or whatever. Because this tincture has water content in it, you just want to be mindful that it could spoil more quickly than an alcohol-based tincture. Alcohol-based tinctures really last a long time, like years. But because this one's dual extracted, It has the water extraction in it. I tend to say to use it within a year. You know, smell it, look at it. If there's visible mold, if it has an off smell, it's probably, you know, best to discard it. I've always gone through my bottle, you know, within 6 months usually, and then I just make a new batch. If you make this tincture, tell me how you get on doing it. I hope you find it useful. I really do believe that tincture making should be simple. It is simple. I hope that through sharing content like this, you feel more empowered to give it a try. It's a great way to preserve fresh plant material and also to help care for your body in a more holistic way. If you have any questions, leave them in the description below. And until next time, thank you for stopping by, and I'll speak to you in the next video.